Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So what I was saying though is YouTube does have the ability, only because the only thing I witnessed it for initially was a funeral, but it was live. It was live streamed just on YouTube, and all you had to do was have the link to that particular thing. It came up, it did its whole thing, it shut down, and that was it. You couldn't comment or anything. It was just view only, but you could hear everything, see everything, and all that was available. So if something maybe Ron could look into to see what part of that, because that's what he's posting it through YouTube now and then links it to the page, I believe. So
But I
so
think
that's
to
one
meet
option.
the requirements of the open meeting laws, you have to have the ability for the public to talk to you.
I'm gonna make
You
comment.
know? Yeah, whether it's via a conference phone type scenario or through the Zoom. I mean, with the limited things that we're doing here, I would think the Zoom would be beneficial since we purchased the license, if
Yeah.
that's the right word.
Yeah.
And if somebody bombs our meeting, I
We
don't
should.
know that that's really
Yeah.
a critical thing. We could
Yeah.
just discontinue the meeting and reschedule.
Right.
You know, they do that executive order that was issued by Governor Sununu did give you options on things to do, but the main thing I got out of it was you have to be able to allow the public to comment or call in or respond to the computer.
I'm fine
Yeah.
using Zoom because there's, even if they don't, I mean, they can type in a comment, or I have a question or whatever, and then you can unmute, because you can set up Zoom to be muted to the public. They put in a comment, and then I think you can either you have the choice of just reading the comment, or I think at that point you could unmute that one person and then they could make comment. But
So we probably just have to figure out like a different camera setup so that you could run the computer at the same time, like to filter out the comments.
It would create some distractions, to say the least, to be able to manage what's happening on Zoom and manage the dialogue as well. So we'll have to kind of think through that. We're going to be, we've used this a couple of times already. We're going to be using it here. We're going to be using it Friday morning for the assessors meeting. So we're gaining some experience with how to use it effectively, and hopefully as time goes on we'll...
Ollie is here.
Okay. Oh, can't get in? So... Oops.
Were we leaving those doors unlocked, like for the
That
meeting?
was me.
Okay.
Let's unlock it. Let me go fix that right now.
Again, it's like one of those gray areas of locked, unlocked, let anybody in, and it's so difficult,
well,
like to find the perfect solution for it.
the whole deal is, and it was done without proper discussion. There should have been one door going this way and one door going to the offices.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it
that
wasn't.
whole, like the whole setup.
Yeah.
Evening.
Howdy.
Evening, Ollie.
How you doing, John?
Good.
I was trying to say is that the ZBA used that for our meeting on Thursday, and I thought it went well. Laurie was here with the applicant. She was able to put the documents up.
Mm-hmm.
The applicant could, comment and whatnot, and then all of the...
Everyone else was across the top,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, and I look at it as if that's what we're gonna do. I mean, if it makes sense to just do the whole meeting that way, then yeah, we, do it from home, or Cause I know your tablet has a camera on it, you'd be able to do it through there.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
that, and,
Yeah.
you know, even like, I think, during the ZBA, we weren't expecting the public to respond in, although they could have, because she had published that address or
Mhm.
whatever, and I'm presuming, cause as we're saying, it's new, that if somebody had a message somehow, either they would have appeared, or a comment would have appeared.
Yeah, I don't know how yours, the one I was on, there was a comment box on the side.
Oh,
And
okay,
you would see people's comments pop up. So you could do it public, meaning everyone sees it, or you would reply. So could do it to, like with Lori, it would have been that they have to reply only to Lori, and then Lori waits, and then she knows that way someone's not going, oh, I just see that someone commented. No, Lori will decide, read out, that way the people know that it's being read in order, being taken care of, so.
Alright. You joined us, John? No, I see his picture.
I don't know, I see a Yankees hat. Now, we were talking, Scott, when
Yeah.
you were out, and I was saying, I thought it worked pretty well for the ZBA, and John was mentioning that there'd be a comment bar, and I don't see one on there, is there one? Where if somebody were to,
Let's see, reactions, manage participants.
Oh, so his camera's off. But then we can't hear him either.
Yeah. So he has to activate that, but I don't think I can.
well, I saw you can mute it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can like mute all and then just unclick each person if they wanted to speak.
But like, if he wanted to say something, how would we see it? Would like a dialogue box pop up?
Well, as I said, like on the one I had, there was a dialogue box off to the side of the screen.
Okay.
Okay, so, okay.
So basically, like where that participant screen was, that participant's
Yeah.
white box is,
Yeah.
it was a black box, and it was like a
I'm wondering
A
if in
comment
that lower
box.
right-hand corner where it says
more, right?
that's what would come up.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, boy. So we can see John, but we can't hear John?
Scott, in the lower right-hand corner where it says more, would a dialogue, mute participant, allow participant to unmute themselves. Yeah, but there's no comments.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's see, there's so much glare on the screen, I can't see it.
Turn it so you can see it.
Let's see.
But I do think that we should be just going with one
Yeah.
platform, not
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Whatever we choose, it's, yeah.
Alright, so it looks like the microphone is working. So I'm not sure why we can't hear John.
There it goes. He's,
and where it shows his camera off, but yet his photo is there.
Yeah,
That's probably his user
Yes.
profile
Oh, there he is.
avatar.
I
You can hear me.
Okay.
That's a good thing. Maybe. Yeah, I can't hear you for some reason. My volume's all the way up.
Is the TV volume up?
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, still can't hear him. Nope, volume's up, he's not muted. It's gonna be a long meeting.
Is he the only one on Zoom? Nobody else?
He's the only one there so far. The others might be coming on later at 6:30 when they were scheduled. They didn't want to attend the whole meeting. I invited them to. So, is there something that I'm not clicking, Lori?
I don't think so, because if it's not muted.
Yeah, it's not muted. My volume's all the way up. Click on my,
Click on his photo and unmute, he says.
well, that's mute.
And I,
All
yeah.
right.
Photo plus unmute.
Yeah, he is unmuted.
Yep.
Yeah, he was before.
No?
He's unmuted.
Are you using Zoom?
Yeah.
Yep. What you did over.
And it should be.
Should be fine, right? I'm wondering if it's on his end.
Now this would say unmute,
Right, it says, right,
so.
so he's unmuted.
Yep.
He's unmuted there, he's unmuted up there.
I'm looking over here.
No, it's up all the way. Volume's up to 100%.
It might be just his audio isn't working,
Yeah,
so there's other people going on.
we'll find out, huh?
We'll find out.
I was gonna try logging on again, I think.
No, I don't think it should be. Doesn't seem like it's on your end. You can put it in live stream on Facebook.
Here he is.
No.
Still can't hear you, John.
Just by chance, unplug the HDMI and see if he comes through just your computer.
You
Alright, try again, John.
No. Okay.
Yeah, we were just wondering, whether it was, we have you on the big screen here too. Thought maybe it was the TV.
It's probably on his end.
So, how's that, John?
Can you hear me now?
Now we
Now
can.
you're there.
That prevents me from having to do.
Alrighty. Now we're in business.
One of the major units of Zoom is the Chinese. It was on the news the other day.
Alrighty.
So we in concurrence, we'll stick with the Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, as soon as your town administrator understands how to use it.
Ah. Okay, Ollie, you're on.
Okay. As you all know that in May we have usually Memorial Day observance And I was just wondering, is there any issues that I should be sure that I tell everybody, other than, you know, the space, so, you know, distance between people and,
I mean, I think it's something we should cancel. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the crowds that we get at the cemeteries and whatnot, I don't think,
I'll be honest, I was thinking about it just the other day because I had something scheduled that day. I was not gonna be in attendance this year. And they've canceled that, and it was going to be less attended than our Memorial Day celebration. I think it's the safest thing to do. It's only 1 week out from the governor's deadline at this point. I think the safest thing to do is to cancel.
yeah, 'cause
Unfortunately.
I'm suspecting that they're going to possibly extend that deadline again.
I think so too, 'cause I heard the reports.
Yeah.
That our peak's not supposed to be for another few weeks.
Yeah, and that's it. There's reports coming out of other states that their own state CDC type thing was speaking. They said, you know, if you cut it off at the end of April, you might see where the state might peak at round numbers 250,000 infected. If you cancel at the end of April, people will go so opposite. Everyone's going to you'll triple those numbers. And I just think, and especially since a large amount of the attenders for Memorial Day are in that risk category.
I was concerned with the American Legion band because they're mostly all older guys. And I was surprised, I talked to the president, Kevin McGibbon, and they were all set to still come on the 17th. So I said, okay, at least I'll have that in my bit of news. I told him I was meeting with you folks and see what issues are. And I agree with you. You know that it might not be, in a sense, appropriate. We'll still put out the flags and things like that to, do our usual decorating of the,
Yeah, because
Veterans
individuals can go and visit.
Right, and you could still put the flags out, still put out the white crosses and hang the wreaths, things
Yeah,
like that. There just wouldn't be the large
Right,
ceremony that would attract a
yeah.
crowd. Which is, I mean, it's upsetting, but I'm sure we won't be the only town that has to deal with this. And I think being proactive is the way to be.
Yeah, no, like I said, I agree with you, because I was also thinking you could get into the situation where you get everybody, all notified and everything like that, and all of a sudden, we're at a peak point, and we'd have to then run around trying to cancel everything, so.
Yeah.
I think if we get that up
Alright.
on the website, just to let everybody know in case they have questions.
Yeah, so that was, what do you normally do for Memorial Day?
We have a morning and afternoon program. Last year, we got our scenic band back. And I was wondering if the school is out, maybe we're not gonna even have a band. And where are they practicing? Can't be in a
I
group.
don't think they
right?
are.
I doubt they are,
They're not.
and I'm sure unless it's,
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of the instruments are at the schools and
Yeah.
such too.
and then you have an afternoon program where a lot of townspeople are part of that, and including John's there every year with the clergy and so forth and so forth. And the only outsiders really are coming in. Actually, we have the Dublin Sea Cadets, on the parade, and of course the American Legion Band.
You want to explain, because Scott's new, so why don't you explain to him what the typical program is?
Well, part of our program is at the 3 cemeteries, two cemeteries and Soldiers Monument. In the morning program is we march through the Smithville Cemetery, South Cemetery, have a program there, and decorate, you know, the cemetery, the crosses, and then we go to the west branch of the South Egan, and we decorate the waters there, and then have a, end of, the morning program is in the center of Smithville. And this year would have been kind of exciting. We have two 10-year-olds. One plays the violin, and the other one plays we have a keyboard. And so singing the national anthem would have been kind of cute. Then in the afternoon, we have a program starting at 1, and it goes to Center Cemetery. We have a program there. Then we march to the Soldiers Monument and have a nice program there. And we go to the recreational center, and everybody gets a hot dog.
And it's always the week prior to Memorial Day,
Right.
because we borrow bands.
Yeah, we've been-
Yeah.
So they're doing their own
That's
on.
right, 'cause we have post, is it 35?
Yeah, I think so.
From Greenville, is our honor guard and
Yeah.
rifle guard and things.
Yeah, it's a nice ceremony though.
Yeah.
We get a nice turnout, and we've been getting more and more veterans joining in, because anyone who served at all is able to just join in the parade and march, and
Right.
it's
And
No.
occasionally we have, you know, on duty, military that are home, and they're part of our parades. And starts out in the morning with coffee and finished coffee bread at the Pete and Joanne's and Bonnie Joe's home. Oh my God, they've been doing that 40, 50 years.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's really nice.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ollie.
Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks, Ollie.
While we're waiting for, road committee to sign in, talking about the Memorial Day parade, every year we march in and we say, boy, it'd be nice if the Wachusett were here. And I think we gotta make a plan on what we're gonna do. Should we be, asking Meredith for a list of names, that she had said that there were people that wanted to work on it,
Mm-hmm.
and getting them hooked up with Dave? How do we fund this going forward? I don't know what, if anything, it needs for components.
Well, I would say currently, like if it's something, how much was in that 250th? Because that was dissolved this year, correct? Which meant it
Yes.
just went into the general fund. I'd say we could earmark that as funds for Wachusett
idea.
repair.
Yeah, good idea.
I mean, because otherwise, I mean because that's what it technically was really for, was to do something like that for the betterment of the history of the town. So I'd say let's earmark that and see what, and then I can reach out to Meredith again and see if she has that list of names and find out if anyone's still interested or not. And I would say if not, then maybe we put out a call and see if there's anyone in town that would be interested in helping restore that historical vehicle. I know there's a couple people probably that I know were involved with the Historical Society that did have some mechanical ability, so we'll see. But I would say, let's see if the fire department has anyone interested first. I'll send Meredith an email right now.
Can we, It's not on this agenda here, but we've got a few minutes. Do you wanna talk about the RFP for the street lighting?
So RFP for the street lighting, I still wanna talk to John Houseman at Eversource, just to see if there's anything else in there, that we need to add before we send it out. I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
So we'll wait on that, cause there were comments that I had based on what I was seeing in there. And I was wondering, did you ever, cause I did have the list of,
Yeah, I couldn't find the list anywhere. Was it in the street lighting physical file, and I looked on the server and the town administrator's computer to see if I could find it, and I could not. It just kept coming up at the old one.
there were things in their RFP that I'm not sure what they were and why, how they got in there, so, I don't know if you looked in that, because I remember when you had shown me the RFP that Hollis had.
Yep.
And they had, I think, asked for an alternate on a smart control system, which
Right.
now seems to be part of our baseline of what we're asking for. And I'm not familiar with what that is, or benefits, costs, et cetera, so.
Okay,
I'm just kinda leery about putting something out there that we don't know.
okay, all right, I'll try to get clarification on that.
Okay. I just emailed that to you.
Okay.
Do we want to, well, two questions, I was on a walk the other night through, Mobile Home Park. And I noticed a trailer had been demolished. Just out of curiosity, do we know if that was one that was,
I wonder if that was the one that was dilapidated and they were asking us to help them.
So that, I'm not sure exactly which one you saw, but there was one that was scheduled to be demolished and removed and have some asbestos abatement done.
Laurie, do you know if they applied for a demo permit,
Which property?
the mobile trailer park?
Yes, there's one on file, but it hasn't been approved yet, cause we're waiting for the asbestos survey,
It hasn't been approved,
the permit, no.
the building is demoed. Yeah, it's down on the ground.
Okay,
Yeah, because I'm wondering if,
I just didn't know if that was one of the ones
Email.
that was part of.
well, because remember a while back they asked us if there was some, that they, I don't know if, there was one that came up, and this is when Carlotta was here. And there was one that was there that was run down, it was, but there was no one living in it.
I remember that.
Remember that
Yes,
discussion?
Yes, yes.
And I can't remember whether we had anything on it or not, but they were asking for some sort of help from us because I guess the people weren't paying the fees or anything like that. So they were wondering if we had some sort of way to help them attach it or something. And that brought up the discussion of the other property. Well, maybe there's a give and take on that, but so I'm wondering if that was the one that got demolished because I think the windows were smashed out and it had been sitting there for a while. So I don't know if that was the one. I don't really walk through there. I did take a ride the other day after the discussion. The very next day, I took a ride on all these roads.
Oh,
So I did take a ride.
looks like Marcus has chimed in here,
Yep.
but we can't hear him. Can you hear us, Marcus?
Oh, 'cause he's muted. He's muted, and so is John.
I can hear you.
There you go.
Okay.
Maybe John has himself muted.
Must be.
You'll check on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There we
I have
go.
myself on mute.
Okay.
I have unmuted myself now.
Okay. And we have
It
some,
also looks like iPhone joined us.
yeah, I'm not sure who that is.
But they're gone?
I did put it on Facebook that they could join via Zoom.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we have one more person that joined us. Alrighty, so who would you like to lead the discussion?
Was there a chairperson for the road committee?
There was no official
Oh,
chairperson
okay.
nominated. I think Peter was probably considered the chair since he's the DPW director.
I don't see Peter on here.
Well, he is aware.
Yeah.
We worked from consensus, I thought.
All right, Walker's joined us as well.
Is there anyone else that's missing that we need to wait for, or can we?
I don't, well, we've got a quorum of the road committee here.
Okay.
So we've got Walker, Marcus, and John. So we're just missing Nate and Peter.
Well, we wait another minute or so.
So like this recommendation sheet, Scott, you'd be able to put up on that somehow, theoretically, or pick up on, like for everybody to see? No. Well, not right now, but like
Yeah.
going forward. Is that where you, I thought somebody said something about,
Dave said that Lori was able to do it the other night, but she was probably ready to, she was prepared
oh, like
to
had
do
it like loaded in tabs or something?
Yeah, something,
Well,
yeah.
it was just loaded on her computer that she could call it up.
Okay.
All right, that, not sure we're gonna get anybody else. You wanna?
Okay.
we see what the road committee had recommended, which I think the only one we had in common was topping Lower Ashby Road because that's already been bindered. They're looking to reconstruct Binney Hill Road from Page Hill Road to the point it turns to a Class 6 road. Reconstruct Poor Farm Road from Binney Hill Road to Lower Pratt Pond Road. Resurface a portion of Green Farm Road using resurfacing funds from warrant articles to pave or chip seal roads as needed. The Board of Selectmen in our road plan had planned to pave Hubbard Pond Road to Pine Street, Lower Ashby with a top coat, Collins Road to Smithville Road. I think those were the 4 that were on our plan. And what I see here is the road committee is recommend to focus on maintenance of existing paved roads before addressing unpaved roads in town. And I will start the discussion in that. I agree we should focus on reconstructing paved roads, but by the same premise, our cost as a town is exorbitant on trying to maintain the gravel roads. And the gravel roads that we had scheduled to be paved were going to be through roads. Collins Road currently is not a through road. It had been laid out to be a Class 5 out to Smithville Road. So that would be a through road to Perry Hill Road. Open for comments?
Again, my issue is with the recommendation specific to that. I mean, I could understand not paving a gravel road if it wasn't a feeder road. But we still have feeder roads coming into town that are gravel, that are just getting torn up by excessive traffic. They're not draining properly. They're affecting people's properties. So I think if we have the opportunity to take another gravel road off of the feeder roads coming in, I think it's a good opportunity. And again, to see the DPW go out and, you know, put down gravel and grade a road, and 2 days later it rains and it's gone, and that's my tax dollars, yours tax dollars, washing into the brooks. I think that's a waste of money, and I'd like to see it stop personally.
So my opinion, it like new to the board and no particular opinion one way or the other. It was just to make sure that between the road committee and the select board, there's an amicable decision between the two bodies, and that everybody comes in to agree as a consensus. That's it.
The other comment I'm going to make is in the closing cover sheet here, it says that the road committee are recommending to use the balance of any funds for the maintenance on existing paved roads from the warrant article to pave or chip seal roads as needed. And as a selectman, I have heard numerous times, oh, why don't we chip seal our roads? I've done a lot of research and reading, and I encourage the road committee to do the same regarding chip sealing. Chip sealing, the documentation you can find on that process is the advantage is for, I'm going to call southern communities, where it gets hot. It's the sun degrading that top surface of pavement on heavily traveled roads, and that's when they use the chip sealing. It's adding another level of protection. Here in New England, we don't have that issue. The issue that we do have is the frost heaves, which they don't have that issue down south. And out of our highway block grant, the money we receive from the state is where we have currently been funding to crack seal the roads. Because that is, to me, a priority on maintaining these roads for the long term. Because if you can keep that water out from underneath the paving, you keep it from heaving, keep that substrate as dry as you can. So,
I did have one question. How old is the Green Farm Road as far as when the town accepted it?
I'm gonna guess that the town accepted that in probably 2012 to 2014 maybe. And that's the one I have a hard time asking people to pay their tax dollars to go and rebuild a road that the town has accepted that probably should have been reconstructed before being accepted if it was in the condition that it is today. It's
Can I add something in here?
you
Yep.
certainly can.
On the Green Farm Road thing, the part that would be top coated or is a part that was not part of the subdivision. It's basically the end of Fair Road and the early part of Green Farm Road.
It's the part that's in really bad shape.
Right.
And I don't think any of that that has been accepted was accepted back in 2011, if I'm correct. But that's also become a big thoroughfare through town. It's a shortcut for a lot of folks. And it's also the backup for when the unpaved part of Stowell Road is in really bad shape.
John, though, if you look at that section of road that you're referring to, from the bend at Mr. Thayer's, not Mr. Thayer, Mr. Ojala's, up to where Kennebec begins, that section was top coated not that long ago. And that's a perfect example of where I think we're putting money into a road that wasn't done the way it should be. And where it's just that section of road, and I spoke to Peter about it, he's saying, well, from the plowing, we're starting to peel off that top coat now. The roads, but it has the paving, it's travelable. I'm trying to get our focus on the ones that aren't in that traveling scenario, because if you were to ask even people that live on Stoll Road, and Stoll Road's not on our list, but would you rather have a road that has some pavement coming off, or would you rather have a gravel road? I don't think that they would mind some peeling asphalt. And that's my perspective, is trying to get the roads up to par and then maintaining them. And that would be one where it has been top coated. I don't know the exact year, but it wasn't that long ago. It's a more recent.
Yeah, I would say it was around 2010 or 2011 when that small section was top coated.
Was it, Marcus, was it when they did the bridge?
No, it was way before that. That was a very poor section, and that was a cheap top coat. It was, I don't know, maybe an inch or so, just enough to get us by for a few years, but it's in very poor shape, and it wasn't part of any recent subdivisions, as far as I know.
And I traveled, I went ahead and took, the other day I went up, and it was a nice day, whatever, I drove, because I actually passed the DPW, was trenching or something up off of either Binney Hill or Poor Farm, I can't remember which one, but I had to go around them because they were working on the side of the road, and I find both of them, it's patchy. You'll go through a stretch that there's no issue, then you go through a stretch where it's alligator, and then you go through another stretch where it looks like, I don't know whether the under part of the road wasn't compacted properly or whatever, and you get these really bad heaves. And we haven't had bad frost heaves this year, if at all. And so, but again, I look at it as, I don't know, I don't want to sit there and take out chunks and patch it. If we're going to do it, do it. But I think we have other, I don't know, I think there's other focuses that we could look at.
Which road was that, Poor Farm or Benny Hill?
Both. They're
Okay.
kind of both
Okay.
the same. I mean, you go down Benny Hill, you get right in front of the cemetery. Like, you're doing fine, then you get to the cemetery, and for some reason, right, basically from stone wall to stone wall in front of the cemetery, very alligator. You keep going, and it's good for quite a ways, and then all of a sudden, you can see where the plows have taken a chunk here or a chunk there because it's very uneven or cracked. And then that kind of follows around Poor Farm, and the same thing there. You'll have good spots, bad spots. But, you know, it's, I don't know, it's still a matter of it's a paved road right now. And I think it could still last another year, but that's my opinion.
And what was, because I didn't go down Poor Farm, what was the condition of that road?
Similar. It's
Similar.
yeah. It's got a couple bad spots, but you know it's you know here and there. You know it's again you go do a stretch and then you can see where either something started to heave and then we had a snowstorm and it got caught by a plow, and so then that's allowed more water to go in, things like that. But you know, I can definitely understand why they looked at that piece of road. You know, it was similar to, not as bad, but similar to how Appleton was. Appleton, you know, where you know you have a long stretch of no issue, then all of a sudden you hit a part where it's like, what happened here? You know, it's almost like the road was like that chunk wasn't constructed right or compacted right underneath, so the road's cracking. But then you go past that, and again, no issue. It's very inconsistent. But like I said, I can see why they looked at that entire stretch, Benny through Poor Farm, and you know, because I just took it all the way around and back up to
No.
North Road.
Yeah, yeah. I know when I spoke,
Just a small portion of Poor Farm, maybe less than a half mile.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
considered here.
I know when I spoke to Peter about Poor Farm, because I was more curious as to why did they stop where they did? Because they stopped at Lower Pratt.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is wherever we've been rebuilding the roads, we replaced the culverts. And because the culverts at Lower Pratt are larger than what the state would allow us to replace, he said, you know, then you're getting into doing an open box culvert, have to have it engineered, approved by DES, et cetera. So even if we do consider that, I think we're gonna have to have a start and stop point, because the funds to put in a mini box culvert type system and engineering and whatnot, we haven't factored in. And I don't know what the condition of that area is, but something we should probably look at.
My opinion, as far as paving, dirt roads, I like it in the long term, but after this year, if we did what the road committee recommended, we will have every major road done in the last, say, 10 years, except for Mason Road, which kind of was done, but it was a poor job. So after this year, if we do this, what we're recommending, then we could start doing all these other projects, smaller roads, bring in some dirt roads. I think that's what I would recommend we do.
I don't think we should start with currently unpaved roads until additional funds are raised, because doesn't that require, in addition to all of the paving and everything, you've got ditching, you may have culverts,
No, because when we rebuild the roads, we replace all the culverts, we do the ditching and pave the roads, cause we don't wanna have to go back and dig up a road to replace a culvert. So that process is there. The roads themselves, most of them have substantial amounts of gravel, cause that's all we keep doing, is as they wash away, adding more gravel. I'm not sure where we are to date with our gravel source, because that had been coming from the property at the transfer station. And typically every few years, we hire a company to go in and process the gravel, so that we have it to keep maintaining these roads. So that's one of the costs that I look at, that I say, geez, if we could pave a road and get rid of that. You look at the cost of a grader. Peter's talking about having to replace the grader. There's another couple of $100,000 on a piece of equipment that you've got to use on a gravel road. And if we could, and I'll be honest with you, I think living in New Ipswich, it's great having some gravel roads. Okay, but on the ones that we have a lot of heavy traffic on, I don't think it's prudent from a financial point. That's all I'm looking at. I live on a state road, so I'm fine. But some of these gravel roads, and I would say, personally, as a selectman, most of the complaints I ever get, it's on roads, dirt roads. It'd be nice to solve that little dilemma we have.
And I agree, but I think we've been on a roll for 10 years, repaving roads, and now I feel like we're taking a left turn to go focus on roads that have been gravel since this town has been incorporated. So I think it's wise to continue on getting the roads done and then jump on all these other gravel roads.
I agree with Marcus on trying to complete what we started. It seems to make sense to me as well. But, in my opinion,
Well, when I'm just running down the list of roads that we have, those that have been completed and those that are still needing to be done,
There's still several roads that would need to be done, but I think for the most part, they're all short, maybe a half mile or less.
well, that's what I'm trying to look at, Marcus, is I've been keeping tabs on what's been done, when it's been done, and which roads are left to do. And as a board discussed previously, we think we've made a good dent in, the goal has always been to get the collector roads done. And I think the roads that we have scheduled now would still be considered collector roads.
Which roads, are you mentioning that, as far as collector roads?
Hubbard Pond. Let me minimize this screen a second. Hubbard Pond to Pine Street. Collins Road was gonna be made a through road. Years ago, we had gotten a request from the police and fire that would be advantageous to them, because right now the access for the vehicles is either up Perry Road or that private road, and I'm drawing a blank right now, Oak Hill. And they said, you know, with the amount of houses on Collins, for that to be a through road. And then we had, state rep,
Tim.
Tim, thank you. Tim Merlino had come in and made the request that we do something with Collins Road, because I wasn't aware that, I guess the buses can't make that turn from Perry Road up Collins Road, so the parents all congregate on Perry Road in the morning to drop the kids off, or wait for the bus. So we were thinking of looking at what we can do to make that intersection work, and then it would come out down on Smith Village.
I think it's a great idea for 2021.
So we're only a year apart, we're getting close.
I agree. I think it's a good idea moving forward. Maybe attack one dirt road a year.
It's actually for the past couple of years, that's what we've been doing. We've been attacking one dirt road and then doing other projects each time. So, you know, so with your plan, we don't attack any dirt roads at all this year.
Well, the first item on our recommendation is Ashby Road, and that's getting old. At some point, it's gonna be too late for a top coat. I don't know when that will be, but that really should be done.
Yep.
Like 230 grand, I think, in that ballpark.
We only paved the top, half of that top coat last year. I mean, half of the base coat last year. And I thought that the first half had already been topped, and Peter said, no, everything's been based.
Right. I just learned that last week. I thought it was topped as well. So
Yeah,
that's over a mile of road that needs to be done. And that's a very important road.
we agree on that.
Yep. Yep. We are in an agreement on that.
I'm looking at my list, and we have done, there's only one other through road that I saw on here that we haven't done yet, and that was Old Wilton Road that goes out to 45 from Greenville Road.
Yeah, that was done in 2008 or 9.
As what? Not a rebuild. Not as a rebuild.
No, it was just a top coat.
Yeah.
I don't think that one gets as much traffic as it used to. It got a lot of traffic when the road was closed for a while,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
it doesn't get much because you got such a blind when you get down to 45 at 45. It's such a blind corner there. Sometimes it's tough.
I still use it.
Yeah.
People on my neck of the woods, I guess.
Marcus, would you agree with attacking like one dirt road a year? Like, do you have any movement in your recommendations?
I'm totally fine with. I would like to pave every road, and I would actually like more money in the budget, but I really think Vinny Hill Road is a pretty important road, and it's pretty bad. I don't know, maybe we could do parts of it, but to me it seems silly to do Collins Road, and it won't get near the amount of traffic that Vinny Hill has.
There are a lot of residents up on Collins Road that can't get adequate services from the town, you know, if they need them.
Is there, you said, you mentioned a school bus. Is there a problem with a fire truck or anything like that?
I had asked somebody, because when I had heard that, I said, is it really that bad that you can't get up there? And they say, truck drivers had told me, yeah, you can't make it up there. Now, the fire department, I don't know, I didn't ask them about fire trucks, because I just presume, well, if a bus can't do it, then a fire truck probably couldn't do it. And they probably just go up Oak Hill to get there. You know, Oak Hill brings you up the middle of Collins Road almost. So, but it is a private road. But the town does have permission to use it for accessing Collins.
Yeah, I really doubt the fire truck can make the intersection, the turn at Collins Road and Berry Road. That's a pretty mean grade transition.
And isn't a bus have higher road clearance than what the fire truck would have?
Yeah, but their back axle, their bumper hangs quite a bit further back than off the back axle than the fire truck does, so it multiplies.
So if they can't do it with a dirt road, what would the difference between a paved road be?
We would reconfigure that.
Is that something that the road guys can do, just keep it dirt for this year, reconfigure it, and then do it next year?
Oh.
Is it a huge project? I'm not sure how much.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I think Peter said there might need to be some land takings potentially,
Yeah.
because it's not wide enough at some points.
We have to look at it to see how to come through, but
Does that involve money, or is that just free for the taking for the town?
I believe where the land taking is, it would be trying to get an agreement from the people that own it. I don't know that there would be monies involved.
What's the value on Collins Road rebuild?
We don't have it yet, because until we knew which roads we were gonna try and proceed, normally we try and come up with a plan of which roads we're doing, and then knowing where the price of paving is, Peter's got all the, as I think you guys now have, the dimensions of the roads, and calculates out how much of the roads we can do.
Yeah, I think, if I recall, I wish Peter were on, on the call, because I think when we were talking about Collins, he was saying that because of what was involved, that was probably gonna have to span a couple of years to get it done. He didn't see that as being done in one season.
And even if we did a binder, which, you know, when we were doing Greenville Road, Temple Road to Greenville Road, that was the intent, is that we didn't have enough money, we would just put a binder. Well, fortunately, that year was the year that the state provided us with additional highway block grant money, and we used that to do the top coat. So it worked out to our benefit. The timing was perfect.
So David, were you talking about like doing all of Collins Road, like all the way through, like to make it a through road and paving
Correct.
the whole thing?
Correct.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if you were just attacking both ends and then leaving the
Well,
center.
where it ends now, where
Yeah.
you could get down there, but not wisely.
Yeah,
That there would have to be graded out, and ledge comes out of there and whatnot, and then pave the whole thing.
okay,
But I would think there are many roads that in a development, when they're doing the development, we ask them to just do the binder, let that winter over, and then you can see where your problem areas are, so that before you go and do a binder and a top coat and then find a problem area, you get it corrected before doing the final coat.
alright.
So there's some preliminary work on Collins that would involve reworking the intersection and reconnecting the end of that road.
Yes,
What if we look at, whether it's some preliminary work on Collins Road or prioritize Hubbard Pond.
In that,
No ideas on the, trying to get something product, try to work out a agreement that everybody would be happy with.
well, that could be an option because it would give us time to evaluate the design, any agreements we would have to have within a butter for reshaping the intersection. And that's why, we were talking about Collins, and I'm thinking, well, do Hubbard Pond, because that's the one that already has a lot of the culverts have been replaced there. And I don't think that one there requires much work. Back in, I want to say probably 2010, I think that had a new 12 inches of gravel put in. Granted, a lot of it's probably washed away by now, but I think that would be the easier one to manage at this point in time. If we were going to do a dirt road, I would probably lean towards Hubbard Pond and work out the details on Collins. Although to me, Collins does need a lot of work. And I don't want to rush it and then find out that, we should have done, some other types of grading or details.
Yeah, I mean, I would be in agreement with certainly taking a look at Collins Road and trying to get a viable game plan and a realistic value for what's all going to be required to make it happen in the right way, for a long-term value on it, and for next year's budget or whatever. And I think that give everybody give time to evaluate. I guess I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are on. I guess my question would be, what are we at for a total value? We're somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 for a budget this year.
Not between.
So
No, there's no in between. We have a budget of $600,000. That is what has been approved. We don't go over.
I'm sorry.
600,
Was it?
600,000.
Oh, 600,000. Sorry, I broke up on my own. I guess I'm just curious on where we stand right now on Hubbard Pond, Lower Ashby, and Green Hill.
Well, Lower Ashby, the road committee and the selectmen are in agreement.
No, he means
Right.
money wise.
Oh, money wise?
Yeah.
We need to have Peter provide
Yeah, I think,
the cost for that.
Or budget-wise, I mean.
yeah, I think Lower Ashby, if I recall, was $270,000 was the estimate.
I have 230 in my head, but it could be 270.
I think it was 270.
And I think the other number he had took up the other $230,000. That basically brings you to 500.
Which one was that for?
230 was for which road?
Oh, boy.
We both asked him the same question at the same time.
Honestly, it slips my memory right now, unfortunately.
What I'd like to do is move forward. If we agree, let's
Look at those three.
Hubbard Pond,
Lower
Lower Ashby, and Binney Hill, and give the task to Peter to come up with the measurements and values, because I don't want to miss the opportunity while oil prices are down.
Yeah.
Right. So is that Binney Hill including the section of Poor Farm, or
No.
just Binney Hill?
Well, if he comes back and he says, hey, you can do all that, and you still got $100,000 left over, then we can take that next step, but I think we're gonna be maxed
Okay.
out, yeah.
All right, so Lower Ashby, Hubbard Pond, and Binney Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I think he should be looking at it, Lower Ashby as a top coat. Benny Hill would be a full reclaim, binder and top. And then, look at Hubbard Pond last, and if we have to just binder that,
Yeah, like we did with Timber Top.
yeah, we can just binder it and budget,
Top coat
Top.
next year.
yeah.
How's that sound?
We agree?
Which roads, can you go through the list again?
Sure. Lower Ashby gets topped. Benny Hill gets reclaimed, binder and top. Hubbard Pond would get binder and top, and best to do just binder.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, I agree.
John?
Yeah, he said yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see his face pop up.
Thank you all for your time on this.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Very nice.
Yep,
You too.
good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, just in case you're bored.
Thanks.
Is that Mr. Coffee?
It is, yeah. All right, so in the next section, under tab 3,
Will you be contacting Peter?
I will.
Okay.
Well, we'll be talking, we talk every morning, so. It's hard to believe, just since our meeting last week, we've had 10 new emergency orders from the governor issued. And, you know, if you'd like, I could just give a quick rundown just for the public out there to understand what they are. We won't go into any detail.
Sure.
So, emergency order 18 was, Department of Safety was granted temporary modifications on certain rules. 6-month extension, for example, on driver's licenses. So if your driver's license is expiring during the emergency order period, you can actually get a 6-month temporary extension on that. And the same holds true for handicap placards. Emergency order 19 was basically an extension of the school closure emergency orders, now extended to May 4th. Number 20 was a wage enhancement for the liquor commission employees. Number 21 was additional funding for domestic abuse organizations during the emergency order period. And emergency order 22 was similar in providing additional funding for child protective services, as well as staffing enhancements for child protective services. Emergency order number 23 was relief for local government for regulatory requirements, somewhat affecting how we run meetings, how we can do business. Some relaxation of the RSA 91A requirements, the ability to accept electronic signatures, the ability to conduct some business outside of regular meetings, such as signing manifests. There was also for some boards and committees, there's meeting schedule relief, so like the planning board is scheduled to typically have at least one meeting a month, and under this emergency order, they don't have to comply with that particular requirement at this point. the same applies for timelines for certain applications with, building, zoning, and planning that are normally regulated by certain timelines. Those timelines have been relaxed. And emergency order number 24 basically put all evictions and foreclosures on hold. So if a landlord is prevented from evicting a tenant and banks are not able to foreclose on a property while the emergency order is in effect. That also applies to the town being able to tax deed properties.
But I did see in the clarification that does not stop any liens from
Correct.
being placed, just no
Correct.
deeding or evictions.
That is correct.
Okay.
And emergency order number 25 is related in that it does allow towns to do blanket interest abatement on taxes during the emergency order. And, that's something that we probably need to discuss a little bit tonight. I know the assessors are gonna be discussing it on Friday. Emergency order number 26 extends emergency orders 2, 6, and 16. And emergency order 27 basically requires lodging establishments to only provide rooms for those considered a vulnerable population and essential workers only. So otherwise, nobody else can rent a room at this point.
And just so it's on the record, in case people didn't see on that one of the other orders that for just because so many weddings are being postponed for the time being, marriage licenses are extended 60 days, I believe. So if your marriage license was going to expire and because you've had to postpone your wedding, just since our town office is only on,
Yeah.
so only because I know it came up with someone I know that they were freaking out, and because they'd already had to postpone twice because of family emergencies, and they were worried and it extended out 60 days. So
On the, I sent you an email on the tax deed.
Correct. So on the tax deed, we're still getting clarification on some of the properties. So some of them, it appears that adequate notice did go out.
Okay.
On others, due to an administrative snafu, we can't confirm that, but we're still digging through the files, trying to see if those particular properties also receive proper notification. Otherwise, those may have to be redone.
Okay. Update on 11 Temple Road, any news?
Well, other than that Mr. Lowe indicated that he was not responsible for the real estate listing for that property, and that he intends to move forward, just as he stated to us several times over the last few months, that as far as he's concerned, he's moving ahead with the project probably within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
So who takes responsibility for the listing? Or where does he place it?
So Mr. Lowe said he had his attorney follow up with the individual that listed the property. However, last I checked, it was still listed. So I'm not sure what's going on there. And
Can you refresh us on what our time limit was with him?
so the time limit originally was, I think, December 2018.
But he was starting in the spring through,
Correct. And then
Okay.
they ran into the title issues on the property, and now he's run into some health issues that I think is delayed as well. But he's still telling me that he is committed to completing the project.
do you think it's prudent to document to him that we expect to see a start date and a finish date?
I would, yes.
We could draft that letter and use the same time frame as what we had in the original, because if it's meeting this, spring and December.
Right, well, he said his plan, is to finish it this calendar year,
But I mean,
so,
if he's planning to start, I'm assuming he hasn't even submitted plans for a building permit yet, so.
not as of yet.
Well, and I read through the file, like you suggested, John, and I noticed that as they proposed hurdles to the town, and the town rectified the different things or gave the additional information out, there'd be long spances of time with no communication back from him. Like calls and emails that would go unanswered and just left to question. So I don't know if this is another one of those.
In fairness,
Yeah.
I don't think that there was long things there. For example, he had a local attorney originally working on it.
Okay.
Then he landed up going and using the same firm that we have for town council. And I can tell you on a couple of occasions where the follow-up was made to them, hey, what's going on? Yeah, we're working on it, it's almost done, we're almost there, whatever. But there were delays, I think, on the attorney side for them.
Okay.
So I don't, just so that
Yeah.
you get the full picture. I think he did try, and I know he came back to the town. I remember Jessica telling me, trying to get in touch with the bank that originally had a mortgage on there or something, so. But, from my perspective, that's been resolved already. So
Yeah.
there should be no reason why there's any delay in getting it started. My only fear is him starting late and then coming at the end saying, well, I'll finish it the following year. And I think that's what we should try to avoid.
So any other questions around our COVID-19 response?
Nope.
I think all the employees are familiar with the policy that we handed out last week at the staff meeting. It is also going to be sent out to every employee with their paycheck stub this week. The Families First Coronavirus Response Act flyer is going to be posted at the police station as well as the DPW for their employees as well, so everybody will know what their rights are as employees under the new legislation.
There been any, cause I saw the document regarding, submitting what our costs have been to, put in place protective situations. Have we expended significant dollars that we need to be looking at that, or has it been?
Not that I'm
pretty
aware of.
Okay.
I mean, basically, the only thing, I don't think we've expended any additional labor that I know of. All we've done is basically use some of the personal protective equipment that we already had available via the emergency management department. And about the only thing that we've probably spent extra money on, honestly, is hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies. And we could probably go back and document that. You can go back to all the way back to the day that the emergency order was issued. But it's a fairly small amount right now.
Yeah, okay. You guys have any? Did we get any, response on the EMS D position?
No, she does have her offer letter. She did follow up. She's still very much interested in the job, so I'm pretty confident that she will be signing it and returning it to us.
Okay. Have you spoken with her?
I have not spoken with her this
Okay.
week. I have not.
Last I spoke with Peter on the, well, let me go back. Let's stay on track.
So this is the draft of the RFP that he put together. And David, I really want your input on this to finalize it.
Yeah.
You know, as I stated last week, I think we've made a huge step in the right direction, but I think this needs to be fine-tuned, and I just wanna make sure that all of the specifications and requirements that you have in mind are included in that document.
So like now on this graphic that's included in here, it doesn't appear to show that it's getting mounted on the perimeter concrete block, so.
So, but there is in the description.
Yeah, right at the very beginning, 140
Yeah, it
concrete
says
block
concrete
wall.
block wall foundation design and installation by owner.
What are you looking at?
Right,
First
the
page.
first
First
page.
page.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the drawing that we've got attached.
Right,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, we can certainly change
I mean,
the depiction
yeah, I mean,
if you think it'll
pencil and
provide.
a ruler, I think you could just kind of draw it in and, you know, put by owner or whatever.
Yeah.
Just so that when they see it, because as I said, some of the proposals were,
Yeah.
it's getting anchored to an asphalt paving, you know, so, no, we got it up on blocks, so. I think then their design would be a little bit different.
right.
Scott, could you, by any chance, forward this electronically, or is this just,
I can.
okay, that'd be great.
Yep.
Police station.
Sean requested that be put on the agenda,
Yeah.
and I put a copy of the flyer in there for everybody to have.
Was there anything on here that we needed to fill in, or was everything?
So the only thing that we left open, you know, up at the top, we didn't know what the public hearing dates were gonna be. So we put dates for public hearing information session will be announced soon. I think that is the only thing that was kind of up in the air when we printed this. I mean, everything else is
Yeah.
pretty much the way we left it.
And I agree. I think, I mean, to get this out there and start talking about it again is, I think, a very good idea. I mean, obviously we can't, and even their dates for public hearing on it, you know, put it out there, and because we're not, obviously not gonna have anything like that until we can have public, you know, congregating again.
Right. Yeah.
But I think putting this out there again as quickly as possible, early on, I think is a good idea. Um, and then figuring out the next step as quickly as possible, but I think putting this back out in the forefront is a smart idea.
Yep.
Now, like Scott said, we've got it printed, we've already paid for the postage.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to quickly peruse that, and I wanna make sure there's nothing that was dated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanna take some time to review it. You know, with the COVID-19 situation, you know, if we wanna do some informational sessions, we wanna make sure we're kinda beyond
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah,
timeframe.
yeah.
So we don't wanna send this out too soon before those events can happen. Because I think it'll, you know, if you send it out more than 3 weeks in advance, I think you're,
Yeah.
not gonna get the desired results as far as participation.
I think it's pretty important to get it out right away because people have more time right now to take a look at everything and, you know, join the discussion with it. You know, enough delays gone into like holding on to things, and I'm not saying anything against this board or anything, but I just,
No, it is.
Yeah.
It's-
so it's just, it has to, I think it has to go out sooner rather than later so that people can do their fact checking, questions to us. You know, and we have plenty of time, like in between now and whenever we can hold the public hearings. And who knows, maybe it'll be something that we do over Zoom or whatever, you know. But still, we gotta go for it. You never, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think there are ways that we can use technology to help get the message out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to figure out what that is.
Cause this mailer spells it right out.
And I mean, what's the worst case if, you know, within 2 months, 3 months, people say, oh, I don't remember that or whatever, and it costs us another mailer. I mean, it's
And we can have it
not the end of the world.
available here too, copies of it.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
here on the website, I'm finding more people are looking at the website than what I had anticipated. So, you know, I hear people say, oh, I went to the website for something totally different, but at least
Right.
they're there, you know.
So what are your thoughts on mailing it out, David? Mail it out sooner?
Yeah, well, as Sean's saying, there's a lot of people home right now.
Yeah.
Maybe they can digest and come up with comments and give us any feedback in the interim. But I do agree it's something that we need to focus on.
I'd be fine with that, getting it mailed out sooner.
Okay.
We can make
And
that
then-
happen before the end of the week or early
Hey,
next week if
you wanna
you'd
pick
like.
it?
No, that'd be great.
Okay.
That's fine.
Any other old or new business?
No, well, David, you
It
could
was, I
you were
started
just
and then I
something from Peter. You would,
Peter,
okay.
yeah. I met Peter last week regarding the front end loader that he has out of service right now behind the garage. And I didn't know if he's giving you any further.
He did. So he went off and did some research, got some quotes from a couple of different places on similar equipment to the rental unit that he's using right now. And I'll try to scan those and email them to you so you can take a look at them. But a quick glance at them, it seems that the one that he's renting in the rent to own possibility of that, the year It's a 2014, I think he said it had about 2,000 hours on it. And looking at some of the competitive units that are out there, same brand, other brands, John Deere, Caterpillar, as well. For the year and the number of hours, that one is actually looking to be a pretty good deal. And, you know, the question that I had for Peter is how to pay for it. And, you know, he said there's enough money in the capital reserve fund to purchase that outright if we wanted to. And he said that you folks had, the board had the authority to expend that money at any point in time.
Correct.
Okay, so,
There's a, I mean, just, you know, there is a piece of equipment I just looked up, so I'm
Yeah,
not.
that's what I'm thinking.
There's one for sale in the corner, 202 and 119. Right
You
by
mentioned that.
right by
You
the,
mentioned that.
okay, yeah, right by the hometown diner.
Yeah.
so, well, I know we got quotes from two
Told you, I
other
don't know.
local.
I looked it up.
Two or
Yeah,
three
that's what it
other
looks
local
like.
dealers. And, you know, I certainly would want us to, you know, consider buying something from a dealer, because sometimes you can get extended warranties, things like that, factored in, even on a used piece of equipment. Whereas if we do kind of a private sale type of arrangement, you know, that probably wouldn't be possible.
Is that a Daewoo? What's the brand he has there now?
A Doosan, it's a Korean.
See, that was the other
Yeah.
concern I had is, well, what do we do for service parts?
So there are three dealers in New England that sell Doosans.
How about in New Hampshire?
There's actually, I think two of them are in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So some of those details will be in those, like the quotes.
yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I did a little, I didn't realize, I had never heard of Doosan before. Not that I'm a specialist in construction equipment.
I had neither.
But, so I did a little research on them, and I didn't realize that they own Bobcat. They own a few other, you know, larger, what normally would be US brands that this South Korean company has acquired over the last decade, and I didn't realize it. So,
Not surprising.
but but they are out there. It's, you know, I just wanted to make sure they had a big enough dealer network that for repairs and service and parts. And they've been around a while. I didn't realize that they, again, because never hearing the name before, that, you know, they've been in this country for, you know, over a decade already anyway.
Yeah.
And because they bought up other existing US brands, they already have a dealer network established, so that was encouraging.
Yeah, and that's it. You'll find that, you know, that you'll get a name and then you look it up, operates in this country under this name or operates into this country under this name.
Right.
Hmm.
So, so that, honestly, as I looked at the others, and obviously we haven't tried to negotiate price with anybody else on, but just what they quoted, Peter, and what they have in stock advertised in that, you know, kind of 2012 to 2016 model year range, the 2014, based on the number of hours and its age, looks like about the best deal, to be honest with you. And the fact that we're renting it, you know, we're already applying basically our rental payments to the purchase of it. So,
Well, if we can get that information, we'll
yep,
take a look and discuss it.
yep. So he's rented the unit for a month. Got a cost of about $5,000 to do that. So, but I'll get you the details and all that.
And where are we with the trucks?
He hasn't given me an update on the truck yet. I'm waiting to see if that bill is formed. That's my fear, is that could be on its way to over $20,000.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Sean?
No.
Scott?
I'm
Was
good
there-
if you are.
Was there further discussion that you wanted to have about the abatement stuff, or?
Well, so, on the possibility of abating the interest, my fear is that if we do the blanket abatement on interest, that it actually encourages people not to pay their taxes. Because there's no penalty for not
Mhm.
paying them. I got an update from Linda today on our cash position, and we have about 1.8 million in change on hand.
Before or after this manifest?
Before.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, when you factor in the school payments of $770,000 a month, so our cash flow is such that she wanted to make sure that we get our tax bills out as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke with Debbie today, and once the assessors develop their warrant, we can issue the tax bills and get them out there. But right now, we're anticipating revenues to likely be down. People are not able to buy new cars very efficiently right now, let alone register them and pay the taxes on them. So registrations, I anticipate are gonna be down. The other thing that we're concerned about is room and meals tax is also gonna be way off based on the emergency order. And we're concerned that it could impact the level of state aid, though the state has already committed to a number of $75,000 in additional state aid, whether that will actually materialize this year or not. And depending on what their revenue situation is, whether the block grant is gonna be what we think it's what we're anticipating it to be. So there's a lot of variables right now. We don't know how this is gonna impact revenues for the town. So my position really is to save the waiving of interest on a case-by-case basis. That's what most other towns have decided to do. If you have a tough situation, maybe you waive, but to do a blanket,
No, I don't think
No,
that's.
I don't agree with that.
I think that would be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, does that need a motion?
Sure.
Motion to look at abating of tax interest on a case-by-case basis.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sean, has just one thing, has the rec department started looking or thinking about what, because I know right now you'd actually be starting signups and stuff for spring sports, right?
And we were 3/4 into it already at the beginning of March. We were actually way ahead of the curve because we had a few people step up and take on different roles. So we were ahead, for the first time in a long time, and
So right now it's just kind of,
yeah, just sort of
Fine.
like sitting there. And for the last 2 weeks, I've been talking to Nicole about like where do we go with this whole thing? Like it's just this sit and wait.
well,
You
do
know.
we, and my thought was, do we have the opportunity if we needed to this year? Because we kind of go through a dead spot where you don't have any sports going on.
Like the
Mm.
summertime.
Well, no.
Little League gonna run during the
Well,
summer?
so I'm just thinking if there was an opportunity to just kind of push everything. So Little League pushed, which then meant soccer pushed, which meant basketball pushed. But then right now, normally you have no sports going anywhere
Yeah.
right now. So you could have basketball going longer than it, and then you would catch back up next year. So if you had to push every season a little bit so that kids could actually play sports, and then catch up at the in this dead time next year, and then you would start baseball at a normal time. But instead of saying, I'm just trying to think the longer we can wait to say we have to cancel,
Yeah.
and then hey, well we can because I mean right now they've pushed off already. No team can practice until I think May 13th, which then means the first game is May 20th. But
Yeah.
if school cancels, they're done. So our programs here in town could be the only sports a lot of these
that's
kids.
Why
like
was
what
it-
we're weighing out is like because we want everybody to have like a silver lining to look forward
Right.
to, like to be able to get back outside and to get together. But then is it smart, especially since in the long term, what some of the experts are saying is that in the fall we could have another like ramp up of this whole thing, like just because a date set by the state of New Hampshire or just because a date set by Little League or Babe Ruth, to then all of a suddenly just go and say, all right, we're getting back together again, and then everybody comes out in
No,
droves.
and that's exactly what. So I'm trying
Yeah.
to see is there like do
we do have a time frame, like we could. Baseball and softball is interesting because that all those teams, it's a part of a bigger national map, whereas soccer and basketball aren't necessarily that way.
right?
So like we could certainly do it between the rec departments and hold whatever we wanted to. It just wouldn't be sanctioned by Babe Ruth or Little League or what. Like if we decided to wait, so we take the 5 towns that we participate with and all just agree that, you know what, even though Babe Ruth says that, like they think it's clear for the middle of May, that may work for 3/4 of the country, but we're kind of behind in New England timeline wise.
Right.
We think we should wait until this, and,
Right, until June 1
you
or
know,
June.
and in reality, we don't send teams to the national competitions anyways. So.
Yeah, and that was my thought. Is I'm just glad I'm glad to hear that you guys are already talking about it and discussing it and thinking, because that was my thing. Is I want these kids to have a silver lining as well.
Yep.
You know, I don't want that. I mean, you've already got so many things that are happening to seniors and kids that would have been doing step up and college people, and just families in general.
Yep.
So to have some sort of, like you said, the silver lining there, to something to look forward to. So we haven't canceled it yet. We're in discussions with the other towns to see, and hopefully they're on board with it as well. And
They are.
just
All the
so I'm just thinking
registration
it's-
numbers are, everybody's are a little bit low. Ours were stronger just because we had a earlier push
Yeah.
for registrations. But we haven't had, I think, maybe one person that wanted a refund a couple weeks ago. But that was because their child was going to do something else that was like a singular type activity. And all the other towns are the same way. Like all the residents seem to be just holding firm,
Okay.
waiting for that, like something definitive to come out. So I by no means want to preemptively cancel things. It weighs heavily on me because I know how much it means to all the people in the town. But then you just like weighing out what's the best thing to do for the community, especially once I heard that our peak in New Hampshire, like they're not expecting it until the end to the maybe middle of May, which is a pretty broad time frame. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean we're just looking ahead at all the different things that this could affect. I'm just in my
Yeah.
head thinking, we're talking about budgets and incomes and stuff, and sport. Like I said, baseball, softball,
Yeah.
and then going into the pool and swim team and swim lessons and how just start. So I'm just glad to hear that you and Nicole and the rest of the rec department is already thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
So that was really, so I appreciate the fact that you guys are already on top of it. So
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Did you?
I think the first thought was, I've never seen the baseball run during the summer, so I'm thinking that would be a good thing, and then they'd be on track for soccer and basketball. But I guess, and I think you were alluding to it earlier, is trying to make sure that we're not over this and we start it and then it's you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really, even soccer is in question in my mind right now. The pool is in question. I know, just everything, because we've already gone through this for, February, March, we're going into April, so then, and we haven't even hit the top of the mountain yet, or even the plateau.
Yeah,
And then how long is that plateau effect gonna,
Yep.
be around? I don't know, so it's just a big wait and see.
Yep.
Because
Well,
I
if
certainly
the
don't
bell
wanna
curve is
organize,
accurate, you're gonna know
Yeah.
in another 2 months.
Right.
but I don't wanna, be responsible for organizing people too soon, like in groups,
No, I
Yeah.
completely.
because I understand that role too. That we have a hand to play in this whole thing.
That was one of the things I was gonna bring up, then I said, well, maybe not, but just for discussion is that out on a walk, I'm walking by the park and I see people there
Mm-hmm.
without the social distancing, let's say,
Mhm.
and I wonder, well, should we be closing it, or just, my mind was, well, just let it go, you can't,
If they don't do it there, they'll
they'll do it somewhere
they'll do it
else.
somewhere
Yeah,
else, and
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But no, because I said same thing today. I was driving somewhere, and it's like two moms with strollers and their kids, and and they're shoulder to shoulder walking, and then 3 kids riding bikes, and it is what it is, and all we can do is do all the recommendations and tell people what the safest thing is. But I mean, we're not community police. We're not gonna. But no, I saw it last week. I drove by and there were kids playing basketball. So
I know. Hear my kids all the time. Can I go play with my friends? They kind of sneak theirs in because they'll go on an hour walk or something in the middle of the day.
yeah,
I'm like, how come it took so long today? Oh, well, we by chance met up with this person. I'm like, oh, really? Do I have to look at your phones to find out if you guys coordinated that or not?
yeah,
But
Yeah.
they need those little things too to keep going. I don't know. I think everybody's trying to be, as safe as they can, and
Well, I mean, just imagine. I mean, most of our people are spread out. Imagine. I mean, I grew up. Thinking back as a kid, it looked like it was so far away. Now I drive past. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I lived that close to somebody. But I mean, yeah. I mean, imagine living in a neighborhood like in Nashua, Manchester, where you're that close. It's next to impossible to avoid your neighbors, much less tell your kid, no, you can't see your friend. Kenny's right there.
But I don't know, I watch kids nowadays, they're not socializing, they're just,
you'd be surprised. Now they want.
now they want to socialize.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
took something away and
You
now
took-
it's,
Yeah, now they're
they
going
miss
crazy.
school. They miss their teachers.
Yeah.
They want to get back to the routine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there is a whole new appreciation for the structure, like in the society that we have, or before this.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be stronger for it after.
lessons learned.
Let's
Alright,
motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.